Leaving a pharmacy after dark, a customer is ambushed by a shotgun-wielding robber. But this crook didn't know that his would-be victim had a legal permit to carry a concealed weapon. Justice is dealt out in the parking lot. Stop the Threat. Start now. Welcome to Stop the Threat. My name is James Towle. On this week's episode, our guests will be Michael Carrizales, retired Texas peace officer, senior 911 telecommunicator, as well as lead instructor for Gander Mountain Academy, Spring, Texas. Wes Doss, founder and president of Kyber Interactive Associates. Wes has a PhD and is internationally recognized as a firearms instructor. Rob Pincus has been kind enough to join us again, managing editor of the Personal Defense Network. Thank you all for being here. Michael, let me quickly ask you a question about 911 because I get a lot of questions about 911. If I call 911, will you know exactly where I am the moment I connect with you?
If that call is made from a landline, yes.
From a landline, okay.
From a landline. If it is made from a cellular phone, the answer is no.
Okay.
We have information that comes up on the monitors. The information is the account holder. That's the information that's advertised. So the account name, owner, and then the address for that landline is located.
Okay.
On a cellular, it's a little different.
All right. So before I ask Wes a question, let me just say, do you know when I call whether I'm on a landline or a cell phone?
Yes, I do.
You do. So you
Yes.
will have that information on the screen or however it comes up.
Yes.
Right. Okay, Wes, I'm looking over your programs, and you have one here called Dynamic Vehicle Stop. Now, all of your programs are basically designed for law enforcement and military. So Dynamic Stop really is about a felony stop, is that correct?
It's aimed at the different techniques and procedures and tactics for high-risk felony stops. Watching all the captured dashboard videos, it's obvious that these are situations and locations where police officers get themselves into tactical trouble. They get themselves into problems. A lot of bad things happen on these stops.
Okay, so what you're giving them instructions on then is tell me exactly what they're looking for from you. I mean, they know how to drive, they know how to stop, they've got cameras on them, they've got cameras on the car. So when I say dynamic stop and it's a felony stop, you're giving them help in what part of that?
Well, we take the program away from the equipment and we put it back into the driver's seat of tactics. Okay. We're not trying to supplement their skills or their efforts out there with new equipment, new cameras, new lights, whatever the case may be. It's the tactics to have a successful stop, to prevail if the situation starts to go south. Everything from weapons management to tactics to dealing with the suspect.
Okay, all right, good. Rob, listen, I've got the new book. I've got just a few seconds left. Give me a quick rundown on what I'm going to find here.
Quick rundown is that the counter ambush and the training program that goes along with it is all about understanding how to train and why your training really should set you up for knowing that you could be caught off guard, you could be ambushed, you could be in exactly the kind of situation that Wes is addressing, where all the technology in the world and your standard operating procedures don't keep you out of trouble. You get into trouble, you get overwhelmed, you need to respond efficiently.
So you're directing this particular book to civilians?
Yes, it's particularly aimed at people who understand they need to train but aren't exactly sure how to train.
Okay, good. I like that. I like that, and I'm looking forward to reading it as well. But before we go, and I'm going to take a quick break here, I just want to give you an idea. We're going to talk about a robbery. And this particular robbery we're going to talk about, I think you'll find this is pretty common situation for all of us. And when we come back, we're going to roll part one of it, and we're going to talk about it, and then I'll show you part two in another segment. Welcome back, viewers. We're going to discuss a robbery, and this robbery probably takes place in every city more often than we would like to believe. This is very common, especially in some of the larger metropolitan areas. A customer has exited a pharmacy, and they're on their way to their vehicle. So I'm going to show you part 1 right now.
Give me your keys and your money. No sudden moves.
Okay, I mean, where the threat is coming from is very obvious at this point. I'm looking at the civilian. I'm thinking to myself, gee, I've done that. I've walked out of a pharmacy. I've had a package in my hand. I have glanced around the parking lot. Is that a mistake?
It's typical human. People are oblivious to what's going on around them, and it's just part of being a human being. To be more aware of your surroundings, you really have to force yourself to be able to do that. It's something that you have to cultivate, and a lot of folks just haven't committed to being that aware of their surroundings.
Okay, do I need to worry about that in these times, that I need to be so specific, that I need to look at each car and try to find people in the car? And
I think the reality is that would that make you safer? Absolutely. Does everybody have time in the day for it? Absolutely not. Does everybody think about it? Are we aware? We can sit around this table and say, well, if he would have, done a lap around the car and looked at everyone and analyzed who's sitting in the car and do they have, we could, but I don't think we should. I think we just, as human animals going about our day, we're going to be distracted. This is the moment now. What's he going to do next?
Right.
That's much more interesting to me than how could he have avoided being ambushed. The bad guys are ambushing us. That's what they do.
Michael, if the car had been parked further away from the front door, I may have been, as just a civilian, I may have been more cautious. Walking into the night, further into the parking lot, I may have had more time to look at vehicles and do the kind of things that we're supposed to do. But because I'm parked so close to the front door, I mean, when we walk out the front door, we look at our car and we go for the car. We go like this and we go to our car. What do you think?
Yes, and a lot of people need to play the what-if game. Coming off of West's comments, people kind of get complacency. They relax too much. It's not their living room sofa arena. You're getting out, you're being exposed. You have to be aware of the surroundings. The vehicle, you identified if the vehicle was further away. There is an advantage of looking at a vehicle by looking at the reflection of the windshield, the reflection on the side of the vehicle, the reflection of the windows, to see if there's something behind you. But it goes back into identifying and playing the role in your mind, what if? So it kind of makes the citizen, the law-abiding individual, to think of how a criminal would be acting or identifying their opportunity. And that's the weakness.
I think if I look in a vehicle and someone's sitting in the front seat alone with a hoodie on, I'm going to get a little bit cautious of that area. But I can tell you that I have gone to the store like all of us have done, probably dropped off our wife or significant other and said, okay, I'll wait here. And I sat in the car.
Well, our victim's dressed literally the same way the suspect is dressed in this. I mean, a lot of people saying that we need to play a what-if game. A lot of people don't know what the what-if is.
Exactly.
So how do they run that scenario in their heads? They don't have any idea what to look for. He's oblivious to what's going on around him. It's just another guy in a hoodie sitting in front of a drugstore.
Probably if the pharmacy had security. Do all pharmacies have to have security now? Are we in such a place in time that we need to consider going to locations that have roving security?
Well, there's no doubt that gives an advantage, right? And if all the pharmacies have it, then the convenience stores are where the bad guy's going to go. If all the convenience stores have it, then the bad guys are going to go to the dry cleaners, right? They're always going to become to where they think the victims are, where are the easy targets.
Place of least resistance.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so there's no real way to stay ahead of this. You need to be responsible for your own actions.
Yes.
We can agree on that, can't we?
Yes, yes.
Okay, absolutely. When we come back, I'm going to show you part 2 Don't go away. Welcome back. We've seen part one of what appears to be a robbery that is going to take place in a pharmacy parking lot. I'm going to show you part two, and this may surprise you. Roll that part two.
Give me your keys and your money. No sudden moves.
I just shot a man who tried to rob me with a shotgun. Yes, I'm at 1808 Jefferson Road. My name is Greg Michaels. I'll wait here. I'm sure I shot him. I saw blood as he ran off, and there's blood here on the ground. He was wearing a gray hoodie and appeared to be in his 20s. I'm wearing a blue t-shirt, a blue and white jacket, and standing next to a silver Ford. No, I don't appear to be hurt. I don't need medical attention. I'll wait on the phone until they arrive.
Okay, well, that kind of tells me that perhaps he had a little more confidence coming into the parking lot and knowing that he was armed. I don't think he needed to be less diligent. However, he seemed to be more confident, and maybe that's the reason why in the first segment we thought he should do a little more looking around. But, you know, he feels like he's armed. Am I going in the right direction on this, Michael?
He had the attitude that perhaps that he could handle whatever situation arose. I think he did a good job.
Okay.
He handled himself well. He communicated with the 911 telecommunicator correctly, identified his location. He gave a description of the actor. He gave a description of himself, identified that he was located at 818 Jefferson Road, identified the silver car. The only thing I didn't see is the license plate number.
Right.
He could have given that.
And we probably didn't see that purposely. Wes, what'd you think?
I thought he no doubt that he handled it well and that he handled it very effectively and efficiently. I think the only difference that would have been in play had he been more observant was perhaps avoiding the situation altogether, which is really one of the things that's advocated heavily is if you don't have to be involved in something, don't. Because there's unintended consequences and there's certainly an opportunity for a situation to go south. Fortunately for him, though, when the situation played out, he played out well in his favor.
Okay, well, based upon what you said, then should I have just given him my keys and given him the car and stepped back? Or did I do the proper thing?
Well, I think he did the proper thing. I mean, what I'm saying is earlier on in the scenario,
Okay.
if he had seen this playing out, observed the bad guy, maybe he'd have been able to go back inside, call 911, there's a guy in the front.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely
there's nothing wrong with that. And from law enforcement's point of view, Rob, if I'm coming out of the pharmacy, I see a guy in a hoodie sitting in a car, and I call 911, should I feel guilty about that?
No, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, we talk about your non-cognitive decision making, right? If you walk out there and you see somebody and you perceive them as a potential threat, treat them as a potential threat. Don't second guess yourself. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't feel self-conscious about taking actions to avoid conflict with that person and possibly to alert the store management or security guard or the police.
Right, and that's what I would think. There's nothing wrong with going back in the store, saying, listen, I'm not comfortable in the parking lot. Would somebody come out with me or call 911, or do you have security? What's wrong with that?
Nothing. That, by all means, those are the steps one should take.
And that would have avoided a shooting. Because the next question I'm going to ask you is, now that the shooting has taken place, now that this has been done, you have committed yourself and shot someone even though your life was in danger. You're in for a whole new spin on life at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, well, man, it's a huge what-if game. I mean, you could have potentially avoided the shooting, but what's not to say that if you observed the guy sitting in the front seat of the car with the hoodie and the shotgun, that he wasn't capering for an armed robbery of the pharmacy as well. So being
That's
able
good.
to avert
that's right.
the situation earlier on, because there's so many dynamics that come to play in these. He did the right thing. I mean, he went out to his car, made a decision, and acted appropriately upon it. But there's second guessing it and armchair quarterbacking it. You could have said, well, you could have done this better, you could have done that better.
Right.
It's always better to be a witness than it is to be a participant. But
Okay.
I think that's one of the issues that we see often in the training community, though, is the idea that we're going to say, well, if you would have done this, this, and this, you wouldn't have had to deal with that.
Right.
And I think that's a kind of a cop-out sometimes for us as instructors, that we say, well, if you would have taken these 6 steps, then we don't have to teach you how to deal with the moment. Well, here's the thing. I don't know that what he did at the moment was perfect either. There was a change in camera angle that allowed the reenactor to get his hand on the gun and spin around and do that perfect deflection of the muzzle and take that shot from the hip. I'll be honest with you, I don't know many of my students who've taken extensive amounts of training who should be trying to pull that move off at that time.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to recommend that, but if you were the kind of individual who was going to do this, then having that resting on my shoulder tells me where it is. I think that's a mistake on the bad guy's part.
Absolutely.
I think if I had been standing behind and holding it to your back and then backed up a little, if I were the bad guy, that might have been a smarter move. But since you put it on my shoulder, you told me where it was.
He advertised.
Right. And now I know that I'm armed and my life is in jeopardy. So, I'm not saying he should have or should not have. I think it's a basic question of, are you trained and prepared to go forward?
Correct.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back. We've looked at a robbery at a pharmacy. We've analyzed that a little bit. I have a couple more questions that I think all of us would like to have answered. Number one, if I were the shooter, should I have pursued the bad guy? Because he did run off. Should I have pursued him or remained and done what I did?
Based on what's in that video, that's a good question. I wouldn't say have pursued him. Prior to locking into that phone conversation, I would have confirmed that he was no longer a threat and had actually left the area, because you're dropping a little bit of situational awareness for just a matter of seconds that could have allowed that to turn back around on top of you.
Okay, because I don't know where the shotgun went.
Exactly.
Right? And that's my question to you. We don't know what happened to the shotgun. I don't know if he dropped it, he still has it, and now he's mad, wounded, and he turns around and he lets a round off.
And that's where you get behind the car, the last direction of threat. You could have done some things there to secure yourself a little bit more.
Okay. And when he called 911, did he include everything he should have?
The only thing I really would like to point out is I think that it was a mistake, and Michael, tell me what you think, but I think it was a mistake to refuse medical treatment. I say, you know what, you may not even know if you were injured, and at the end of the day, let's get the medical units there and see if they can check you out and make sure you're okay, and it's probably going to be good in the police report also to make it clear that you were attacked, you might have been injured.
Right. Well, Michael, he did say that he shot the bad guy.
Yes.
So, once he said that, medical should be rolling right or wrong.
Yes, because you don't know if the assailant is going to drop later on, because he did acknowledge that he saw blood. Okay. He said that nothing appeared to be wrong with him. But in a crisis situation, the adrenaline takes over. The body will go into shock. You're not going to feel anything. So, yes, by all means, have that ambulance and come by and check yourself out.
All right. I don't have enough time in this show to discuss this, but I want to ask you one question. When I called 911, should I have said and acknowledged that I shot someone? Now, I get a lot of people saying to me, don't say that. Just say there's been an incident and that you need to have medical and law enforcement on the scene. They have said to me that's not a good idea to tell 911 that you've and admit to a shooting. That's up in the air. Who wants to talk? I
think it's crazy. If you shoot, it's going to be self-evident. You're trying to conceal a crime, the elements of a crime, if you don't acknowledge it. Now, I would say that I'd start off with, a man just attempted to rob me with a shotgun, and I defended myself. Might be a better way to present it, but you can't deny the fact that it happened, and to explain why it happened is imperative.
Right. I would think that if I'm going to contact 911 and I don't give them a better reason to come to the scene,
they're not going to show up.
They're going to say, yeah, we'll be there after lunch.
Right.
You know, or something like that. Right?
The time you're consuming filling up that phone conversation, too, is time taken away from managing that scene and getting your head back together. I mean, I've just been involved in a shooting. I was just held up in front of this store. There was a shooting, something, just brief, get the information out and get the authorities running.
So it's okay to admit to it at this point? We're happy with that. Right? Just admit to it, get law enforcement out there, call in medical, get them all out there and find a place for yourself to shelter because you don't know what may be taking place in the next 10 minutes before law enforcement arrives.
Exactly. I
like all of those. I got to go, though. We've run out of time. We've got a lot more information here that we'd like to offer you, but again, we're out of time. I'll see you again next week, and let me leave you with this thought. The only gun battle that you win is the one you do not get into. Look for us next week. Be safe, be trained, be alert.